In my last two videos, I talked about our language arts curriculum choice, which was Logic of English Foundations, and our math curriculum choice, which was Right Start Math. And I'll put a link to those in the description if you want to watch those. This video is going to be about my curriculum choice for all the other subjects. So this video is going to be about Sonlight, because we use Sonlight for our history, our Bible, our literature, and our science. Right now, or this past year, I guess it's summer now, so we used Sonlight Core B, and we got the first grade full package because I did get it used, so it had everything in it. It even had math and language arts, but we already had a math and language arts curriculum. I got such a great deal on it though, so I went ahead and got it, the full grade package. And that came with Core B, which now I think they've switched the cores. They don't call them cores anymore because they don't want it to be mistaken that they are aligned with Common Core, because they're not. So now they've changed it to History, Bible, Literature, or HBL, and that's always what came in the cores. So it would be HBL-B is what we have, and then we also got Science B. Now, there are, I'm going to show you this. This is the instructor's guide that you get when you order Sonlight, and you can either get one that's already put together like this, or you can get it, oh, my cover page is coming off, or you can get it where it's not bound, and it will come with all the tabs for the weeks and all the information. So it is separated by week. So this is week 1, week 2, week 3, so on all the way to week 36. Now what we decided to do was we decided to do weeks 1 through 18 for first grade, and then we would do weeks 19 through 36 for second grade, and that is just for the history, Bible, and literature and science. So for math and language arts, we did a full first grade curriculum, and now we're doing a full second grade curriculum. We're moving on with that. So we take 2 weeks to do each week in Core B, which I think has worked out really well. But you can definitely do it in 1 week. I'm going to show you what one of the pages look like. I'm just going to take it out because it's such a huge book, it's kind of hard to pick up. Alright, so here's what your schedule pages look like. And it will have day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and then it will have your Bible, and then it has your history, and then it has your read alouds, which is your literature. So this is what the core schedule pages will look like, or the history, Bible, literature pages. And it has activities that you do each day. And it says in here that you can, for record keeping, you can check off or you can write on here. But what I actually do each year is I take the week ahead and I make a copy of the instructor's guide page for that week. And I make a copy of anything else that goes with it that's in here. So for history, Bible, and literature, there typically isn't any worksheets that you need to copy. I don't think I've run across any. There's sometimes a map maybe that you might need. There's no worksheet, so I would just copy this instructor's guide page, and then what I do as we do each lesson is I just highlight it for my daughter. And the reason I'm copying is because I have 2 other children that I want to use this with, so I want to make sure that I can use it again and again. And then for science, which would be under week 2 as well, I would copy a few things because they usually have some worksheets that go with it. So for science, I would copy the schedule page, and then I would also copy the worksheets. So there's an example of a worksheet in science. So I would copy this. That way she could write on it, and then I can put my pages back into the instructor guide. So then once I've made all my copies for the week, I put it in our weekly binder. So I have sort of, instead of having this out and pulling it out each day, I have just a regular 1-inch binder that it's divided into subjects, and it'll have history, Bible, literature, and science. And so I will put actually I do core as 1. I'm sorry, history, Bible, literature is 1 because it has 1 instructor's guide page. And then the next section has science. And then I also have a math and a language arts, so that if I do need any copies for our math or our language arts for the week, which are different curriculums, I'll put that as well. That way I only have to carry around that little 1-inch binder with me because we kind of move around the house when we do school. So I don't have to have this with me, or if we take it out with us. Sometimes we do school at work, sometimes we do school at the park. I don't want to have to bring this huge binder with me. So that's how we do it. And that, as far as my record keeping, once I highlight everything, I put a date on it, the date that for each day that we do, like where it just says day 1, I'll put the date at the top. Day 2, I'll put the date at the top. And then I have a completed section at the back of the weekly notebook, and I put each of the completed pages in there. So it's highlighted and it shows the date that we did it. So that's how I do my record keeping. And then that's it. Okay, so yeah, 36 weeks. So I'm going to show you just the different stuff that came with the Sonlight Core B, or the History, Bible, Literature B, and the Science B. On the Sonlight website, you can order basically a lot of different ways. You can customize it any way you want. You can do the full grade package. So for first grade, you could pick History, Bible, Literature B. You could pick Science B. And then you can pick whichever language arts your child is doing. So if you're doing it for first grade, you would pick first grade language arts. Or if you're doing it for second grade, you could pick second grade language arts. Or if you're doing it for third, you could pick third grade language arts to go with it. And then you also get to pick the math curriculum that you want. So Sonlight has a lot of different options. I didn't buy math through them, so I'm not super familiar with what all they have, but I know they have like Horizons and Saxon, and they have a few other that you can pick from. I think they do teaching textbooks once you get to third grade. I'm not sure, but they have a couple of different options for math, and you pick the one that you want and then the level that you want. So you can really customize it even if you pick the full grade package, or you can go through and just pick individual subjects as well. You can pick up the History, Bible, Literature by itself. You can pick up the Science by itself. You can do just the read aloud. You can do just the readers, which come with the language arts. You can just kind of mix and match however you want and make it specific to your child, which I love. And I like that Sonlight does it by levels, and they don't assign a grade. They'll assign an age range to each level. So B, I think, is, I should have looked that up before, but I'm not sure, but it's like maybe 6 years old to 9-year-old, I believe. But it gives you like an age range, basically, that you can decide on, and instead of doing it by grade level. And a lot of people do recommend that you stay towards the higher end of the age range. So that's why for B, really, first grade is kind of pushing it. I think most people would prefer to do B in second grade, which is one of the reasons why we decided to stretch it out, because I got a great deal on B, and I went ahead and got it before I really didn't know anything about Sonlight, and I just thought B was first grade, and that was great, and we were going to do it all in a year. And after the first couple of weeks, I realized that it was taking us a little longer, and we were starting to get behind slowly, and I thought, after I did some research and found that you really should stay towards the higher end of the age range, especially when you get up in the higher course like D. The material just gets more mature, and it's just better for the older side of the age range. So we decided to stretch B out over 2 years. So that means she'll be doing C in third grade, and then she'll be doing D in fourth grade, which I think is a better fit than doing D in third grade. Now, this coming up year, I don't have to buy any new Sonlight materials. I just had to buy a new language arts and new math, so that was great. And then I do have 2 other kids, so they'll be using Sonlight as well, and they'll be using B when it gets to that time. So for the price that you pay for Sonlight, especially if you have multiple children, it's amazing. It's a great deal. Now, my first experience with Sonlight, I did buy used, and it was, I believe I paid $400 for the full grade package, and I think if you bought the full grade package online, it's somewhere in the 800. So even at that, I was kind of like, okay, I don't want to try this for $800. That's too much. I didn't really want to do it. But when I found it used, I went ahead and bought it. And I will definitely, when she does get to C in third grade, I will definitely just go ahead and spend the money, and I'm going to buy it online because it is worth it, and it is great, and I love Sonlight. It's literature based, it's fun, and it's just such a rich curriculum with just books and tons of books and more books, and that's what I love about it. There are no textbooks. There's, it's great. It's living books. Like science is taught through just a lot of different books instead of one science textbook. Same way with history, and it really makes it all come alive, and it really makes it interesting, and it really makes it special. And if your idea of school is, you know, sitting at a desk and copying stuff out of worksheets, and you kind of remember that from school, and having to memorize, you know, the dates that everything happened and everyone's name and history, and it was just very dry and boring. I mean, think of the polar opposite of that, and that's Sonlight. Sonlight is curled up on the couch with mom, reading a great book about someone important from history and learning about their life. And it's amazing. I love it. And I did not like history in school, and I love it now. It is one of my favorite subjects. I actually was talking to my husband the other day about maybe going back to school to major in history, because I'm just loving it so much since I've started teaching it with Sonlight. Okay, so now let's get into showing you everything that you would get, okay? So I'm going to start with Bible, because there's only one book, so that's the easiest one to start with. The Bible for B is Leading Little Ones to God. And it also comes with a CD, which I do not have right now, but that's for memorization. It has like songs for the memory verses that are in here. My daughter has really liked this book. I wouldn't say it's just my favorite Bible curriculum ever, but I do enjoy it, and she enjoys it as well. What I have her do is I read the lesson for the day, and while I'm doing that, she will kind of draw a picture in her journal about what we're talking about in the lesson, and then I'll have her write her memory verse out in her journal, and then we go through and we read it will have a couple of verses usually that it wants you to read out of the Bible. So we'll do that, and then it has a prayer, and it has a song, and it has a hymn, and then in the instructor's guide, they will schedule certain memory verses that you will work on every day for however long, and then you'll have like a thing where you recite it to friends and family, or you've learned like the Psalms. I think there's one where you learn a couple of different Psalms and then you recite it, and that's part of the instructor's guide. So Bible is meant to be done every day in the instructor's guide. So how we have done it is we have kind of split it up into, we will usually do the lesson one day now, since we're doing each week for 2 days, and then the next day we will do the Bible reading, and then we'll kind of expand upon that and do more Bible reading, and then we'll work on the memory verses every day. Okay, so that's the Bible. And then the history portion comes with these books. I don't know if you can see that, but I'll show you individually what we have here. So it's got the Roman diary, so we do learn about Rome. It's got George Mueller. Oh, and history for B is the year 1 of 2 for ancient history. So B is year 1 of ancient history, and C is year 2 of ancient history. So this sort of starts at the very beginning. It talks about Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, and ancient Rome. Okay, so we have the Roman diary. We have George Mueller. And then, let's see, this is Missionary Stories with the Millers. They do schedule this in as part of history. History encompasses geography as well. And this book has just been, me and my daughter love this book. And I want to get more like it, because it is a really cool book. It's missionary stories, and it tells you like where it's at, and then you can find it on the map and talk about that area, and then you can pray for that area, and then it'll give a story about a missionary that went to that area. I love this book. We had archaeologists dig for clues. We learned about archaeology. That was fun. Okay, and then for Egypt, we would read out of, I haven't really gotten to ancient Rome yet, because I kind of stopped at the end of Egypt, even though ancient Rome started, I believe, in like week 17, maybe it was 16, but we just kind of did some more stuff, and went a little deeper into ancient Egypt for the last few weeks, because I didn't want to start the Roman Empire, since we were going to be doing that for 2nd grade, so I wanted to kind of have a clear stopping point. So for ancient Egypt, we have, and it does chime too, again. We would have a couple of different books that we read out. We read out of the Time Traveler, and they have, of course, a section in here about ancient Egypt, many pages in that book. We read out of the Usborne Book of World History. Again, there's a section here about ancient Egypt. has like the Egyptian Empire, houses and furniture from Egypt, lots of stuff. And then we would read A Child's History of the World. And this is kind of, I guess, what you would call the spine of the history. And so this had stuff about Egypt in it as well. And then we also had this book called Tut's Mummy, where it talks about Lost and Found, where it talks about the uncovering of Tut's tomb. And then we have our timeline book, which has figures in the back. And there's stickers. So these are the timeline figures that it comes with. And as you go in the instructor's guide, it will tell you when you need to find the timeline figure that you're studying and which one it will be. And you'll color it and cut it out, and then you put it in your timeline book. And this timeline book you will keep throughout all the course. So if you did Sonlight all the way through high school, I've heard that you sometimes have to add pages to it because there's so much stuff to add to the timeline book. And a lot of people add in their own stuff. We have not started doing that this year. I thought that for our first year of Sonlight, I just wouldn't do that. But like if it doesn't have a sticker for it, you can add in your own thing. You can either make your own stickers through on the internet, or you can just write it in. I'm trying to find an example of one. Okay, so here's an example of where she colored in the first Egyptian king, and then we stuck it where it went, which was 3100 BC. So this is the timeline book, and it goes all the way from 500 BC to, and the BC pages are like in a off-white color, and then the AD pages start with a white color, and it goes all the way to, I think, 2050. Yeah. So there's our timeline book. And then a couple of other books that came with the history curriculum were House and Home. This was always scheduled on the 5th day. We've already done all of it. So Sonlight has, sometimes on the 5th day they will have different things, but this was just like an extra book. It didn't really go along with like ancient history per se or whatever we were talking about, but it just talks about different types of houses around the world and different time periods and how the people built them and how they lived. And so it was really cultural and it was fun. Where's the other one at? Oh, and then People of the World. This is the other one that we did. And this one talks about culture, and it talks about like flags and money, and kind of starts at the beginning. And with Sonlight being a Christian curriculum, if there's anything in here like this one talks about evolution, it will put in the instructor's guide like, we didn't schedule page 4 because it talks about, evolution and beliefs that aren't part of our belief system. But if you want to go over that with your kid and just talk to them about how some people believe this but we don't, so it gives you like suggestions of how to have an open dialogue with your child if you want to, but it warns you ahead of time if it's just something that your kid isn't ready for yet, or you're not ready to talk about with them yet, you can see that. Or like in this picture as well, like there's a lady with her top off. So if it's something like that, they'll give you a note in the instructor's guide and let you know that that might be something you might want to look at first or skip entirely. And then these two things, oh, here we go. And I guess this goes along with ancient Greece too, but this was the Greek news book that came with it. And this is kind of like, almost meant to look like a newspaper from ancient Greece. And then we have the Great Wall of China book, which I'm looking forward to reading with her in 2nd grade. Alright, so as you can see, history comes with a lot of fun books. And I like that you can, these 3 books here, you skip around, and you read, like if you read about ancient Egypt in each book, and you're going to read about ancient Rome in each book, and ancient China in each book. So that's kind of neat. You get some different perspectives and different information from each one. Okay, so that's the history portion. And for us, we did history 2 to 3 times a week, depending on how quickly we went through it. Sometimes we did it 4 days a week if we wanted to. A lot of days I would switch and I will do history for 2 days, and then the next 2 days I will do science. And then on the 5th day, I will do anything that we didn't cover, or if there's something that we enjoyed that we wanted to dig deeper into. A lot of times my daughter would find the science topic that we learned about interesting, and we would look at YouTube videos on those or go to the library and pick up more books on those. Or she found the history topic interesting, and we would do the same thing on the 5th day. So that's how we did it, since we're breaking it up over 2 years. Okay, and then next would be literature, and this is all part of the core again, the Bible, the history, and the literature. So for literature, it's basically just your huge stack of read alouds, okay? And you just go through it. It's scheduled in the instructor's guide so that you can stay on a nice schedule and get it all done by the end of the year. They will have a reader, which will be one chapter book, and then they will have a poem book, and you will read a poem or two each day. So that's what your literature is. And the literature books that they pick are great, the read aloud books. That's one thing that most people just love about Sonlight, is their amazing book choices. I couldn't put a list of these books together myself any better. So this is really good for people who don't have time to research and look at all these different books and see which ones their child should read. And it's just great that it's put together by someone who has taken a lot of time and a lot of care to put this book list together. So this is not in any particular order, but these are the books that came with our read alouds. There is Little Pear, Mr. Popper's Penguins, Homer Price, Charlotte's Web. I believe Charlotte's Web was the first one that was scheduled that we read, and if so, this was just such a, I think because it was the first one that we read with this core too, it was pretty much magical. This is going to be my favorite book from now on because of that. It was our first time that we sat and we did that, and it was our new Sonlight curriculum, and then we watched the movie afterwards, and then we watched the cartoon version afterwards, and we did tons of activities with comparing and contrasting them, so it was really fun. This is Mrs. Pigglewiggle, Henry Huggins, The Case of the Gasping Garbage, Detectives in Togas, which I'm excited to read this one, and Greek Myths. I saw these are coming up soon, and they coincide with when we're learning about ancient Greece with history. I'm actually not sure if maybe these are supposed to be in the history section instead of the read aloud. I don't know, but either way, these books came with the core, and we're reading it as part of our history. So this probably should be in my history stack instead of my read aloud stack. Okay, we have The Will on the School, Mountain Born, Goony Bird Green, Owls in the Family, The Year of Miss Agnes, and the book that we're reading right now, which is probably in my daughter's room, is Understood Betsy. That's okay. Okay. So your history, your Bible, your literature, that's your core, or now they call it HBL. Okay? And then we also got science with ours because, like I said, we did get the full grade package, and that comes with science. So science, it was broken up in 36 weeks like everything else in Sonlight. The first 1 through 17, weeks 1 through 17 was animals. So we did this book. We used this book for animals, and it's the Usborne Book of Animals, and it is a beautifully illustrated, colorful, exciting, fun book. My daughter has loved that. And that would be days 1 through 4, or 4 days a week we would do animals, and there would be we would read 2 pages usually, and then they have, of course, the internet links like all Usborne books do, and we would go and watch the videos and learn a little bit more about it that way. And then there would be a worksheet, and we would usually color the spots on the map that the animals were from. We would answer some questions about it, and then on the 5th day, well, they have it scheduled on day 4, but the other day of the week would be a science experiment. So for that, I didn't bring that in here. For that, you get a DVD that's called Discover and Do, and you pop the DVD in, and the guy's really funny, and he does a little experiment in his kitchen, and he shows you how to do it. And then there's a book that goes with it, which is called Science Activities, and it will tell you which page to go to, and it explains the same experiments that he did in the video in book form, so you can read about it. And then you get the science kits, which have all the materials that you need. Now, sometimes you'll need a few household items added to it, and the instructor's guide will let you know, for this week you're going to need this, and here's what we provide. So whatever they provide, that's what's in your science kit. So that would be like your magnets, your magnifying glass. They have clay, there's tin foil, there's a tray, there's tubing, or whatever kind of odd and end things that you would need. And then it'll say what you provide, and that'll usually be like a piece of cardboard or a pin or just real simple things that everyone pretty much has. And then it'll also list next week, here's what you need and here's what we will provide. So if you want to plan ahead for the week, and if you do need to go out and get any of the materials, you can look a week ahead and it's right there and shows you what you need. So the science experiments were fun, and they were easy, and they were, they were doable for me, and we did do most of them. Not all of them, but we did most of them. And I would usually make a little chart or something so she could kind of show her findings and put that into her science notebook. I have it, like I said before, I have a weekly notebook that's done by subjects, and then I have one that says completed, and she puts all her completed work in there that I want to keep in her portfolio for the year. So for science, there would be the worksheets that we filled out, and then usually I would have her do some kind of a chart or just write like what she would think would happen, or draw a picture of her science experiments. We could keep that for her portfolio. Okay, so that was the experiment part, and like I said, week 1 through 17 was animals. So weeks 18 through 29, I believe, is the human body and anatomy. So that would be the next part. And that's what we are going to start in 2nd grade. I went ahead and stopped at week 17 so we would have a clear stopping point, because that's where animals stop, and I didn't want to start the human body and then be off for a month and a half and then restart it. So we'll be beginning week 17 of the science, or week 18, I'm sorry. So with that, there's a few different books. There is the first encyclopedia of the human body, and this again is a Usborne book, which I love because it has really gorgeous pictures and it's internet linked. Where's that? Okay, so, and then we have the book, and I'm not sure when this one comes in, but we haven't done it yet. So this is the Magic School Bus at the Waterworks. I'll go ahead and show you that because I'm not sure which section it comes in. We have Pasteur's Fight Against Microbes. That will be during the human body. Why do people eat? And what makes you ill? Okay? And then, oh, I forgot, we did this one too at the beginning of the year for animals. On the 5th day, they would have this book scheduled, Night Animals. And this was a fun book. It's just lots of animals that are nocturnal, basically. And then weeks 30 through 36 are astronomy. And there is this book on astronomy, Space. And it is a DK book. And while you're doing space and while you're doing anatomy, it will continue to do the science experiments once a week. Now, the science experiments do not coincide with what you're learning. So it's kind of just like, to some people it's a little disjointed, but to me it's like the day that you do the science experiments is kind of a break from whatever else you're studying in science. It's just totally different, and it's like magnets, water, that's what we've done so far, and then it moves on. You do lots of experiments with magnets and lots of experiments with water, and they're just fun. And it teaches, the, hey cutie, teaches the, I just lost my train of thought. What is the scientific method? There we go. Sorry. Okay. And now, alright, so since I got the full grade, oh, good job, Katie. What are you doing? Since I got the full grade package, I did get language arts. We use Logic of English for language arts, like I said earlier in the video. But the Sonlight language arts comes with a few things that I just went ahead and incorporated into our year, and I'm going to do that again in 2nd grade because I just like it. One of the things that I love about Sonlight is the readers that it comes with. So in our Logic of English curriculum, it does have readers, but they're like little tear-out readers that are at the back of the student workbook. And so I like having these actual books as readers also. So these are all the readers that it came with. And it's like Dr. Seuss books. There's these I Can Read It books. It's I Can Read It book 1, 2, and 3. And those books aren't my daughter's favorite, the I Can Read It books. We've done some of them, but if she doesn't want to read that, I let her read something else. She loves reading the Dr. Seuss books, though. And then there's A Big Ball of String, The Best Trick, The Bravest Dog Ever, The True Story of Balto, and Little Bear. So those are the readers, and I'm having her do those. I had her do some of them last year, and I'm having her read them this year. And I don't really assign these. It's more like, hey, if you want, you need to do some reading and choose from one of these books. But that comes with the language arts. And if you do the Sonlight language arts, you'll have the readers, and it will also have, it comes with handwriting without tears for your handwriting. And then it has worksheets and activities for you to do each day. And then it does recommend that you add in some other things. I think explode the code. And let me look in the instructor's guide. It says what it recommends that you add in for language arts. Okay, so it's optional Explode the Code and optional Language and Thinking. So those are two different books that it has you add in for the language arts. Now the language arts covers spelling, and it does a list of spelling words at the beginning of each week, and it gives you activities to do with them throughout the week. And then it doesn't tell you to test on day 5, but there's nothing scheduled for day 5, so you could do a spelling test on day 5 if you wanted. It does phonics. So the phonics are basically the I Can Read It books. It starts with those and just kind of goes through those. And then for phonics, it tells you to add and Explode the Code and Language and Thinking. Then it does handwriting, and it does the readers, which I showed you, and then it does creative expression, which will be on a worksheet, and that'll be either like copy work, or it will have you do match initial letter sounds. It will do capitalization, different things like that. Since we have our own language arts curriculum that covers all that stuff, sometimes I will just look through the Sonlight, and if there's anything interesting that I want to cover, I'll add it in. Like sometimes some of the grammar stuff that was in here, I might add it in. Or then, like I said, we usually did the readers, but not with this schedule. Okay, the language arts gets mixed reviews. I mean, everything else in Sonlight is amazing. Their language arts is not quite up to the same level as everything else, in my opinion. And I do enjoy it, but I don't think you could use it as a standalone. I think you definitely would have to add in the Explode the Code and the Language and Thinking that it suggests. And then I'm sure it would be a great program. Okay, so that's pretty much it for Sonlight. So that covers all of our subjects that we do. Next year I'm going to add in Spanish, and other than that, I've done a video over every subject and what we've chosen for the year, last year, and is coming up here. And Sonlight is open and go, so you open it up. The instructor guide tells you exactly what to do each day, and all the materials are included, so you don't have to go scrambling around. There's lots of stuff online to help. If you decide to do Sonlight, there's a great Facebook group called I wish I could remember the name of it now. Just search Sonlight Moms on Facebook, and there's a great group where there's lots of people that are super willing to help you if you have any questions. Even questions about what to order or what level to put your child in, because it can be a little confusing. It definitely was for me when I first ordered it, but now I feel like, now it's coming along. Like, it's not as hard as it seems when you first start out. It's really open and go, and it's really simple, but, choosing the right level can be hard. You can also call Sonlight. They have great customer service, and they have people that are there specifically just to help you decide what to buy and what to get and what your child needs and what would be best for you. So it's a really good company as far as customer service and helping out. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I hope that I didn't ramble on too much, and that is pretty much it. We love Sonlight, so y'all have a good day.